Donald, welcome onto the Oxygenaddict Podcast. It's lovely to get the chance to get you onto the show. For listeners who haven't met you before, I'm going to talk a little bit about your previous accomplishments and probably miss a lot of them out because there's a lot of them. But it's really nice to get the chance to get you on and have a proper chat because our paths have crossed at various events over the years and we've managed to have a little bit of a chat. But I'm really looking forward to interviewing you and finding out more about the man behind the performances.
Yeah, no, it's I've listened to your show for a long time, so it's quite an honour to come on here and have a chat with you. So yeah, like I say, it's a very familiar voice.
The honour's all mine.
To you.
Well, actually, I need to give a shout out to our mutual friend Matt Botchwell, who was the impetus really for us finally getting this interview done by texting me after he'd been doing, I don't know whether he was doing a bike fit with you or something, but he said, "You've got to get Donald Brooks on this show, mate. Let me send you his number."
That's right. Yeah, I was up with Matt recently actually because he fitted me. I went onto a newer bike last year, for the 2022 season, a Specialized Shiv, and he fitted me November 21. And I messaged him, and he goes, "Yeah, we can get you faster on that bike. So come up. It'll only be a little tweak." And ended up taking the whole front end of the bike off, and it was almost like build it up from the start again. So he's so confident and knowledgeable in what he does, and he's always looking for those little gains, and the experience he brings to that bike fit is very good. He's he's a wealth of knowledge in that area. So I'd highly recommend going and seeing him. He's brilliant.
He's a modern day magician, I think, that uses his magic in the realm of just making people faster on the bike. It's quite an interesting crossover of his technical knowledge, but also it feels like there's as much of an art to it for Matt as there is a science to it. And like you say, he'll start to make a little tweak, and the next thing you know, the front end of your bike's disassembled, and people come back and say, "I don't know what he's done, but it feels totally different now in this new position, and I feel really fast."
That's it, yeah. And he brings his wealth of experience. He's worked with some top level athletes. He was on that sub-7 project. He spent hours in the wind tunnel. So he brings all that knowledge to you, and then he takes the time to really look at you, and you spend hours in there. And and he's just looking at all the little bits and pieces that make you go faster and look at the bigger picture. So I always enjoy my little trips up to see that.
Well, listen, I've kind of skipped over the introduction to you in all of this. So I've hacked this from various sources on the internet. So we're going to read through your list of achievements here. So first up, 4-time world and 6-time European age group triathlon champion. You were British champion in 2022 across every distance they had an event. Is that right? There were 5 different.
That's correct. Across all the 5 distances. Yes. Yeah. So
sprint, Olympic, aquathlon, duathlon, and middle distance. Is that
That's right? Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Amazing. Yeah. You won 70.3 Weymouth overall, and you were voted BTF Male Age Group Athlete of the Year, which is, amazing achievements. But the thing I think that's most surprising about you is you didn't actually do your first triathlon until you were 37. Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. That's good research. Yes, 37. In 2014, I did my first proper triathlon. Yes. Yeah, I dabbled a little bit in multisport doing aquathlons before then, but hadn't done multisport and put all 3 together until 2014. Yes, it was.
Wow.
And it was literally a last minute decision. I managed to get somebody else's space that couldn't race, and I got the space on a Friday night and raced on the Sunday morning. So, buying a tri-suit at registration because they had some of their club kit there. So, yes.
That's amazing. So, how did you get into triathlon in the first place? What was your routine? Were you a single sport athlete as a child? Because I think I've read, and I don't know what this is really, other than I've heard vaguely of it. Underwater
hockey
or underwater hockey. Is that what it is?
Yeah, or also known as octopush.
Octopush.
Yes.
So we actually coached a guy who did this a year ago. Someone came into the team and that was the first time I'd ever heard of it. And I read about it, and it sounds like it sounds like water polo on steroids for like Navy SEALs or something. It sounds like the hardest possible game. Explain a little bit about it, and then we'll go on to talk about the triathlon implications.
Yeah, so I sort of got into the sport when I did play water polo because I swam at club level as a junior. I got into water polo because I had a team there, and I always liked playing water polo, but I thought of something else. My dad was into scuba diving, and from that, I wanted to join the scuba diving club, the BZAC club, and you couldn't join until you were 14. And when I turned 14, I went along to the diving club, started my diving training, but they also had an underwater hockey team known as Octopus, because they are linked to the dive clubs, or they used to be. Now they're more so they stand on their own. So I got into it at 14 with some of the guys from the diving club, and sort of taken under their wing, and started going away to a few of the tournaments and that, and progressed from there. But for people that don't know, it's played by there's 2 teams of 10, and you only ever have 6 in the water at any one time. And you start either end of the swimming pool, and you wear mask, snorkeling fins, and there's a lead puck on the bottom of the pool and 2 tin troughs at each end. And the idea is to get the puck into the opponent's goal. They're played in swimming pools ranging from your normal swimming pool with a shallow end to a deep end, so you change ends to get the advantage of the slope, or the national competitions are normally played in Olympic type pools, widthways, where it'll be a uniform depth across 2 meters to 3 meters deep. So yeah, very much of a team sport, because you've got those 10 people in the team and the 6 in the water, so you've got rolling subs as often as you want. And yeah, it's very hypoxic game, if you like.
Well, that was going to be my next question. It's like, how do you think that affected or developed your ability to do endurance type sport later on? And I imagine there's a lot of holding your breath and swimming down and getting comfortable being in close contact with people under the water,
and being able to be in that situation, not panic because you can't get it, because sometimes you can't get to the surface exactly when you want to, but you will get there in a couple of seconds, but it feels like an eternity because there's no holding anybody down or anything. So if somebody wants to go up, they can go up. But yeah, you are you're very much, I used to play as a forward, so a striker, and so I would take, when the buzzer goes to start the game, you'd sprint from the pool side to the middle of the pool to get the puck. The first person there has advantage to move it to their team. And then you're always watching the game, looking backwards, and then trying to work out where you're going to go down so that you can time a pass coming forward to being on it. And then you will sprint up to their defense line, either try and go around them, through them, use your other forward, or come back into your defense to go around the back or something. So, but then as soon as you're up, a couple breaths, you're back down again. And
so it's a lot of sprint, swim training, and holding your breath, which is obviously going to help develop all manner of lung function for later on in life, right?
Well, I remember I played as I got into my late teens. I started playing with or training with the GB squad, and then playing with them. And I remember in some of the later years, we were training at Loughborough swimming pool, and they used to do a bleep test once a month. And the bleep test was like, it's like you say, it's like the bleep test you do in the sports hall, but on steroids. So again, it gets quicker and quicker and quicker. But the function of it was you'd have a 25-meter pool, you'd have a lane rope across halfway, so at 12.5 meters, and you had to swim on the surface when the beep goes, and then you had to duck under the lane rope and do the second half underwater to the wall. So you're holding your breath for half a length, and then off again and off again and off again.
The beep gradually gets faster and faster as you go
along.
Faster
and faster and faster, yes. And that was always very challenging. But I used to do very well at that. And I think I had that aerobic engine that was just there to be tapped into, more so than some of the others, yes.
So did you run and bike at all as a kid, through your youth, through your 20s, through your 30s?
As a kid, no, not really. I had a bike. I had a mountain bike. I used to ride it around my paper round with a friend. I used to cycle everywhere. It was like, but not any. Never a road bike. It was just a mountain bike to get me down to the woods or down to a friend's house or something. But no, I didn't start cycling until about 2012, when the Olympics were in London, it sort of like grabbed everybody's attention. I was about 34 at the time, and sort of grabbed my attention. A few friends of mine had road bikes, and they were like, "You got to come out, you'll love it, you'll love it." And I'm like, "I'm not sure." I borrowed one of their bikes, went out with them a few times, and it was like, I found it really hard. It was like, my friends joke that, "Oh yeah, I used to be hanging on the back, and I used to have to drive over and put my bike in the car to the next town along because it's quite hilly to get there, and that's where we met. So I used to put the bike in the car and drive over there, and like a 20-mile bike would be hard work. And but you progress, and the more you do something, the better you get at it. So, and it grew from there, really. So
well, that's really important, I think, for anyone who's listening, who's a beginner and wondering, how can anybody get good at the sport? It's worth remembering that somebody who's a 4-time world champion started out by having to drive their bike across so they could do more of the ride with the mates. I think often people assume that you come into a sport and people who are at the very top of the sport were always very good at the sport. But I'm really interested talking to you to find out that wasn't the case at all.
No, not at all. No. And I always remember finding running at school really hard. We used to have to do the 1,500 meters around the grass track, and occasionally there'd be a fun run, they called it, and it was 5K around the estate with your parents got involved sometimes. That always found running hard. And I met my wife through swimming, and she was more into running as well. So from then we did, I probably started running. There was the local triathlon club, Exeter Triathlon Club, used to hold aquathlons from the pool I swam in with the Masters Club. And so a few people would do those. And so I've done a few aquathlons, and I'd do the 600-meter swim, no problem, jump out, and I'm running in my Speedos and a T-shirt, absolutely giving it everything, running about 22 minutes for a 5K. And it's, I found it really hard. Did a few 5K races and that, but I always found the running very hard. And my times were in the low 20s, I guess. So, hadn't really pushed any harder until I got into triathlon. And then I just progressed at it, really. I just kept chipping away at it, and my times came down.
Right. So from somebody who literally couldn't ride from the door with the mates when they first started riding and had to take the bike in the car and was running, what did you say, 22-minute 5Ks?
About 22-minute 5Ks I used to be. And my heart rate it's higher than my heart rate on a race now. So I was putting in the full effort. So yes.
Okay. And your PBs are actually listed on your Instagram page, and I didn't copy them in because I didn't think we'd get into this, but I think I remember, is it 1540 you've now run
I think my PB is 1548 at the moment. So wow. Yeah, and that was recently. That was about 18 months ago. It's tail end of 21. Yes, I did that.
That's not a bad progression across like an 8-year triathlon career, is it? That's quite something. Yes. From 22 minutes down to 15. The thing I love about this, you never know what your potential is. You can't predict it from any of these things. You wouldn't naturally think someone who's running a 22-minute 5K as an adult has the potential to improve down into the 50, because 15 minutes something is very top level, winning your age group at sort of local championships over 5K kind of speed. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, no, it's come along, but I find that the running elements where I get the most injuries, and I guess most triathletes are the same because you're weight bearing. And I remember it's from your podcast, actually. I always refer to this with some friends, is you've always emphasized, do all your hard work on your bike and in the pool, and do all your running easy. And I live by that. Yeah, I kill myself on the turbo. I'll do that in the pool as well. But I go out and I run all my runs around about, it's like a tempo steady pace. So I'll run at about 5 minutes per kilometer, and I'll vary the terrain, some hilly terrain sometimes, but I'll always try and keep it around about there. And I'll chuck in the odd park run here and there and a bit of speed work, but not too much, because I find that's where I get injured. And I'm balancing run injuries all the time. I've just been out this morning and run, and my calf feels okay, but I've had a calf injury all over Christmas. So yeah, it's just it's a fine edge, because I think you have such a good aerobic engine from your other sports, it enables you to push your body too hard for your legs, that your muscles, your tendons, your ligaments, they don't like it. They like to progress a bit slower.
Yeah.
So that would be
It's
my
something that
advice for
we see a
anybody.
lot.
Yeah. And advice for anybody getting into running is just build it up slowly. You can't jump into it too quick.
Yeah. Especially if you've come from a swimming background or a cycling background where you've already got a massive engine. My dad years ago had this analogy. He was like, it's like watching those kids who they get the first car and it's an old banger and they bore out the engine and they put a more powerful engine into a Mini or a Peugeot 105 or whatever. And the chassis of the car isn't strong enough to take the power and the torque that the engine can produce, and that's why it breaks down. And I think the analogy is great because exactly as you've said, you've got the ability to push the body to move at that speed, but it takes a long time to build up the durability, especially for swimmers, right? Because you've spent your entire life making your ligaments and tendons in your feet and ankles really floppy so you can swim well.
Yeah, floppy. I was going to say floppy ankles. Yeah, I always have problems in your perineal muscles that I'm running now. They're down the outsides of your sort of like your calves and down the bottom, because you just got floppy out. So they're constantly. I saw a chiropractor about this time last year, and it was just like, yeah, especially when you're running in these new like bouncy shoes. He goes, they've got no stability, and you're just working overtime compensating. Yeah.
That's really, really interesting about the fast shoes, because I found that as well when I tried a pair that they have that spring, but they have it in all planes. So it's not just forwards, it's sideways. And if you haven't got those, I think it's easy for us to look at the really good runners who, you look at Kipchoge, perfect run form, right? Perfect biomechanics, propel him even faster. Most of us, we have to accept, as much as we would like to, like that we're just not that. We've got some small flaw. And I think there's a possibility that gets exacerbated by the shoes.
It does. And if you look at anybody's running form at the start of a race to an end of a race, as they get tired, their run form changes. And I don't care how much people say, no, I run the same. But you look at people and it will be like, you might start on your toes, then you go to heel striking, and you're just tired and you land differently. You land heavier, and your running form changes as you get tired through an event. And you've got to take account of that. And I only race in the bouncy springy shoes, but yeah, I can definitely tell my ligaments and tendons are sorer after racing in them. Definitely.
Interesting. And we also see at the very top level, we've got runners who've got, arguably the two runners at the moment who have got the best biomechanics are Patrick Langer and Gustav Iden, and the pair of them seem to be producing amazing performances in these new shoes. I think other runners who don't have such great biomechanics, maybe it's like if you've got the great biomechanics, it propels you forwards even more. But if you don't, so it's almost like a double win for the great biomechanics and not quite so much of a win for everybody else, unfortunately.
People need to experiment and try different things and see what works for you. But I've done quite a few races in them now, and I've done because triathlon's a bit niche where it's difficult to compare times across the triathlons, but when you're doing your local 5K or your park run or something like that, it's quite a good, you can get benchmarks in different shoes and how you feel, your heart rate and your perceived effort to know how it feels. So I've done some experimenting with them, and they definitely help. And that I don't go into all the sales hype and that, but they say because they're helping with every step, the longer you go, it's supposed to help you on the longer distances as well, fatigue later. So
so especially on the sort of the marathon distance runs and marathons in Ironman distance, I think that's where it can really make the difference, that last sort of, or the 10k between 25 to 35k,
because that's where people start
really...
they hit the wall and that. So if you can have a bit more in the tank, then it's always going to be beneficial.
So which triathlon performance are you most proud of looking back? You've obviously come into the sport quite late at 37. You've come in at 2014 and progressed really rapidly in the sport. Which one are you most proud of?
Oh, that's there's so many to choose from. But this year, the two that really stick out for me on the longer distance stuff was winning Ironman Weymouth outright. And there was no pro field there, but there was still a lot of good age group athletes there, and it was fierce from the start. And that was just a good day. The family were there. You're running, you've got a lead bike in front and behind, and the whole of Weymouth were out. It was a good day out. But the long course weekend I did in Tenby as well, because I did a full distance. It was challenge actually in Weymouth in 2015. I'd only been doing triathlon for about a year and a bit, and I found it very hard, and it really wiped me out for about 6 months after that. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go long again for a while. And then I ended up doing the long course weekend in Tenby from a deferral from COVID, when I was going to do it in Holland because it's nice and flat. It was at the end of 2020, loads of fitness. It was like, then it got cancelled. So I ended up doing it in Tenby. And again, the family came up. We rented a little house right in the town centre. So they were there. They did the kids races. And sort of I did the swim. I was fifth because it's split over 3 days. So you do swim Friday night, cycle Saturday, and the run Sunday. And I was fifth place after the swim, sort of like not on anybody's radar. It was okay. And then I made the lead pack in the bike, and it was I just had a very good bike. Managed to break away with a group, and then managed to break away from that group towards the end. And I came in with a 7-minute lead going into the marathon. And again, I had an injury going into the marathon. I really wasn't sure what I was going to do. So being in the lead, I thought, I'll just hold on to the guy that's second and third and see how long I can hold on to them. And one of them dropped off quite early, and the other one I managed to hold till about halfway, and I went through the half marathon in nearly a PB, and it was very hilly. And I was like, this is how I need to ease back a little bit. I've got 7 minutes, and hopefully it won't take 7 minutes. And I came in and took it by about 4 minutes. But one of the motorbikes came up to me with about 2.5K to go and said, I'm going to escort you into town because you're going to be the winner. And it was like, that was it. It was a good feeling. And then come running into Tenby, all the heritage of Tenby with the triathlon, and we've had a few family holidays there. It was a good special moment. Yes.
Nice. What's your experience been racing out at the World Championships then? Which of the ones, so you've got 4 World Championship wins to choose from. Which one's been your favourite of those?
I would say the favourite's got to be the first one, which was in Rotterdam, which I think was 17 or it might have been 18. But that was my first experience of a World Championship. So I've done a couple of Europeans before then, and going to the Worlds, because you've got all the other countries there. So the Australians are there, the Americans are there in force, and it's just a bigger atmosphere, it's a bigger venue. I went over with some friends as well, and it just felt like a very big good event. And it was quite a technical bike. It was you were on and off the cycle paths, and a lot of people complain about it. It's not just a big open straight road. It's very technical, small paths and that, but it played to my advantage. And I wasn't expecting to win over there, so it was a really welcome surprise when I did. And it really sticks in my mind, that one.
Yeah, I bet it does. What do your kids make of this? I know you've got 2 boys.
You've got 2 boys, yeah. They're Max and Joe. They're 10 and 8 now. So I've had them do some of the local triathlons. They really seem to enjoy it. They're in the local swimming club, but my elder lad, Max, he was around Kona time. He was just watching all the Kona videos of the old races and that, and he'd come out and he's giving me all the names of the people that are doing it, and said, he managed to come back from like being 15 minutes down. So they're really into it, and they don't come away to many of the big ones with me because they're at school and travel and such. So but I try and get them across to some of the ones where I know they can enjoy it. They don't have to have time of school, and they do enjoy coming and watching racing. Yeah, they get into it, especially my old one. My younger one, he does like watching, and he's probably a louder one when they're cheering. But he's nice. But they both do enjoy the racing as well. because there's a local company around here, Sportiva events. They run a lot of multi-sport events, and in Paynton they hold quite a few triathlons, and you swim in the pool. You come out, there's a Vela Park at the back of it, which is 1.5 kilometers around, and then you can run around the field. So it's all off-road. It's very safe. They have loads of kids there racing. It's really good to see them all getting involved.
How do you work the balance of parenthood and training? And I'm imagining that, well, I'm not imagining, I know there's an awful lot of hours of training go into it. Balancing being a dad and having a full-time job is a challenge for any age group athlete who is into the sport. So maybe there's something here that people can learn from you. How do you get that balance right?
It's a tricky balance, but yeah, I've got a very supportive wife and family. My job, I'm a company director for an electrical company, so that does take up quite a lot of my time. So that is Monday to Friday normally. So what I try and do is I'll get up early and I'll train. I'll be up at 5:30 and I'll train between 6 and 7, or maybe even 5:30 till 7. Try and get an hour and a half in before I go to work. And I always it's always hard to get up. It never gets easier getting up, but at least if I've got that session in the bag, it doesn't matter what the day throws at me. If something comes up and I miss something else later on, I've got the session done. And then I try and do a session in the evening, and that one it'll be mixed around the family. So I'm running the boys around to clubs and things, and I'll do split turbos. And so I'll do 20 minutes on the turbo, then I'll get off, run them up to a club, and then come back and carry on. So it's just taking it and being adaptable, really. And then it's sometimes I can be training later at night. And then we tend not to eat. The boys will eat earlier, and me and Mel, we won't eat till probably about 9 o'clock at night. So we'll have the training done, and then Mel's very good with she does most of the food sorting out, and that. And the food sorting out is better than my training plan. It's just like she will put out the next week what we're going to have every night. So she'll pester me at the weekend, like, what do you want to eat each night? And we'll come up with some meals, and then we'll get a online delivery shop that will come in. So we know what we're having each night, and it's all planned. And I'd say that's a big part of my success as well, is having the right nutrition all planned in, and makes it easier. You're not eating rubbish or thinking, what am I going to eat now after a session? I've got it planned in. And Mel, she enjoys the cooking part of it as well. So we cook different nights each, but we sit down. That's our downtime. Then have our tea and that, and bed, and then start again.
So it's all about the planning and the preparation then.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, so I say my nutrition. Yeah, so I have similar breakfast. I have porridge and banana for breakfast. Then the evening meals, and my training is I train in the morning before work and in the evening. So all my training is split by about 12 hours. So almost I'm training every 12 hours continually. The weekends, that will change a little bit, because I'll probably do a bigger ride on a Sunday and it'll be one single session. On the Saturday, I normally mix up loads of different things because the boys swim on a Saturday morning. So I'm jumping around there. I can sometimes do park runs. So I might go down and do park run, then do a little run afterwards. I might take them swimming in the afternoon, and they're good enough that they can play in one side of the pool now, and I can get a session on the other side. So it's planning and consistency. I'll take the consistency is a big part of it.
Yeah. Busy man, busy, organised, getting it done around a lot of other stuff.
Trying to find time for other things is very difficult. Yes, it's like how you fit everything in. Yes.
What's your coaching situation at the moment?
I'm self-coached.
Okay.
Never had a coach, but although I'm self-coached, I do take advice from people. So and help. So with the swimming, I do most of my swimming by myself, but I might meet up with some other triathletes. There's quite a lot of good triathletes as well in the area. So we will arrange on WhatsApp groups, and that arrange to meet at the pool at certain times. The leisure centre run a adult condition swim, which is run by one of the guys. He does a bit of triathlon as well, and it's a good set actually. He'll normally make quite a hard set for us on a Monday night, so that's a coached session poolside. The cycling, I'm a member of Mid Devon Cycling Club, and that's always good to go along to. So I try and get along to the club rides on a Sunday as much as I can. And it's always beneficial chatting to people that cycling is what they do. That's their only thing. So they're all racing and doing things. So they're talking about their training plans, and it's just good to ride with a group because you learn a lot about the group riding, and you can always push harder when you're in a group as well.
Yeah.
We do a chain gang on Tuesday night in the summer, which is always it's one of the hardest sessions I do. So I'll ride over, meet them, and then we go up and down. It's called the Teen Valley, and it's a 20-minute effort up, 20-minute effort back we concrete at the top and have about 10 minutes up there. And but it is eyes out, like riding really close proximity, which it does help you for the draft legal racing and that, which isn't my favorite, but it does mean that you're pushing, you're at maximum for 20 minutes, really close to each other, and it's just when it's your turn to go, you go. It's just like no matter if you're hurting, you pull your turn, and it does get easier. So yeah, but my running's by myself. Like I said, January unsteady, but it's again, it would be great to drive somewhere and go to a running club. But, I can run outside my front door and keep the time
all
down,
isn't it? Yeah, 100%. Well, the balance that you've got definitely sounds like it's working for you. So the first rule is generally, if it ain't broken, don't try and fix something.
That's it.
So, yeah, you found what works for you. What do you think your ultimate potential is in the sport? And obviously, being 4-time world champion already, what keeps driving you to keep getting the training done?
A few people have asked me that, and the training, sometimes it can feel a bit like a choice. Like I went out this morning and it's raining, it was dark, it's not that nice. It's like, why are you doing it? But I enjoy the racing. I race a lot and I enjoy the racing. I enjoy the camaraderie you have with people when you meet them. I enjoy going to the events, and it's not just the race itself, it's the lead up to it, talking to people about it, the people you meet at the events. I know we bumped into each other a few. And yeah, it's I'm doing well at the moment, and it's that drive and that buzz you get from racing and doing well, especially the outlaw events where I've seen you, is because I can start, they're self-seeded, so I can start at the front of the race with the other guys and get through the swim, get on the bike, and then we can get to a little pace line and everybody's working really hard. There's surges, there's race tactics, and you're all playing out, and it's like who's overcooking it, who's saving some back for the run, and just like weighing up where everybody is. And yeah, I do enjoy that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Do you think you'll step up and race a full distance or Ironman event at any point in the future?
I've entered Lanzarote this year, so
right, okay,
as a qualifying race for Kona, which is not Kona anymore for the men, is it? So I was going all in for fully committed to going to Kona this year, and now it's all changed. So I'm just trying to work out what to do. But doing the long course weekends, giving me confidence that I'm able to go longer. And I had some nutrition training last year and the year before, and I've been working with a nutrition coach and using a glucose monitor to monitor some bits and pieces. And we did some metabolic testing, and on the long course weekend, I went over a bump down on quite a fast descent through some lanes, and I had 2 bottles behind my seat. One was all my punch repair kit, and the other one was like a really strong gel mix. And I lost it all going down one of the hills within the first 20 miles. I was like, I've hardly got any nutrition in my pocket, so I nursed myself around on the nutrition. But I managed to break away from the group and almost time trial in the last 20 minutes, and my power numbers were that of a 10-mile time trial almost. So I was surprised that I could do that on such little. I took in less than 1,000 calories on a 112-mile bike.
Wow.
And I bumped into my nutritionist, Dave Starr. He lives up in Nottingham, but he was down in this area. I bumped into him a couple of months later, and we were talking about it. He goes, your body is built for going long. He goes, you're really well fat adapted. And if you train it properly, you can go long well. So after doing the long course weekend and that advice from him, was thinking, yeah, maybe it's time to step up and do some of the longer stuff. Not step up, but just a different challenge, and do some of the longer stuff. And that was my plan, to try and go to Kona this year, but that's all up in the air. So I'm trying to work out whether I do Nice or whether I postpone it for Kona. But it's, again, going out to Hawaii. It would be if we can take the family, but it's in school time, and it's how long you go for, because it's you can't just go there and come back. It doesn't feel right, does it? So
big juggling. I was going to say, I think, now I might be wrong on this, but when it was initially announced, you could qualify, and if you qualified for Nice, you could roll it for this year. You could roll it to Kona for the next year, I think. Now, whether that'll change in the future or not, I don't know. But you're not tempted by the idea of going to Nice and racing the world champs there?
I am. I am tempted, and I must admit,
it would suit you. That course would suit you down to the ground, mate.
You're not the only person. Will Clark messaged me as well and said that course would really suit you. So, and I did the 70.3 Worlds there in 2019, and came 5th in A trip then. But I know I'm racing a lot better than I was then for that sort of distance. So I must admit, it is tempting, because although it's Nice, it's not Kona, it's still a World Championships. And I think it will be quite well attended, because it's a easy location to get to. It's got ample accommodation. Yeah, it's an international airport harbour. And yeah, that hilly bike course should suit me. So, but it's 2 weeks after the 70.3 Worlds in Finland, which I had as a target. I'm entered. I've paid, I've committed to that one. So it's only 2 weeks after it. But I think I should be able to do a full 2 weeks after a half. I wouldn't be able to do it the other way around, I'm sure.
Yeah. That's interesting. I think you often find that you get, although you can feel pretty sore for a week after that 70.3, you seem to get a really good fitness bump 2 weeks after the 70.3. So although, and I don't know why, but I wouldn't ever schedule a 70.3 for 2 weeks before an iron distance race. It does seem that people who've done it almost as that's the way it's fallen this year and I'm going to give it a go. They always seem to race really well in the iron distance, almost, whether it's a lack of expectation thing, I don't know, but it always seems to work out. So
yeah, I did Weymouth this year, and then the following weekend I did Outlaw X. So they were, I know it's another half, but it's I did 2 halves back to back and performed well at both. So it's I think, because you need that few days to recover, but that also brings your training down. So you're almost, because you need to taper for that Ironman. You need to taper more so than a half. So I think having the racing under your belt almost forces that recovery stroke taper. So I think if you played it correctly, you could do, or the Norwegians do, don't they? They seem to race everything and do well at it. So yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of science goes into their tapering and what they do. So yes,
be interesting to see how that works out for you. All right, is there anything looking back that you wish you could go back in time and tell your 18-year-old self?
I think I could have pursued more endurance stuff as an earlier age. It'd have been interesting to see where I'd have got to if I'd started in my 20s. It's always a little bit. A lot of people ask me that as well, and I think the reason I'm doing well is because I didn't do that endurance stuff in my 20s, and I hadn't worn out all my joints and everything then. But I'd have been interested to see what I could have done as a younger myself. Yes, racing and triathlon. It'd been interesting.
And all right, so my last question, this is kind of off the topic of triathlon, but what's something that people seem to misunderstand about you?
I think I'm not sure people see the hard work that goes in behind the scenes, and probably think that your race results come easily because you're winning across the board at so many events. And there's a lot of time and effort that goes into it. And a phrase I like to use is, it's never given, it's always earned. Yeah, it's you still have to put the time, the graft in, and the racing's almost like the reward of your training. But yeah, people think it comes easy, and I know everybody's different physiologically, and you have to have that natural ability as well. But to train that natural ability and keep it going, it's not easy. It's I've got a friend he's taken a real interest in my triathlon this year, and he's come to a lot of the events with me. And we went out for a drink over Christmas, and he was talking to some of the people at the pub about me, but he'd had a couple of drinks and he was like, oh, he does this at this time, he does this at this time. It's just listening to somebody's output, how regimented you are when you go to events and how much you do focus and put the effort and time into it. Yeah, it was interesting. Yes.
Interesting to hear how somebody else, almost like you're hearing what you look like from the outside reflected back to you, because I suppose when you're in it, you don't realize your habits they sound very regimented. You're up at 5:30, your meals are all prepared, you know what you're cooking, you know what you're eating. I suppose when you hear someone else talking about you like that, you kind of go, oh, actually, I have put a lot of things in place here that maybe other people don't put in place.
Yeah. And yeah, I'm not saying that nobody makes a sacrifice, but a lot of sacrifices as well. Like, it's just with your diet, your drinking, it's your nutrition. It's a lot of things that you could do different. Not saying that I'm really strict on my diet or my drinking, but I do cut down a little bit, here and there, just to keep your body in that fighting shape. So yes,
Awesome. All right. Well, listen, I feel as though we've learned a ton from listening to you today. So thanks very much for your time, Donald. Next big event on the horizon for you is Ironman Lanzarote.
Yeah. Well, I've got. I'm deliberating whether, because it was the one I could fit in before doing Nice. For the Worlds, to qualify for the World. So if I decide to do Nice, I'll do Lanzarote. If not, I might postpone Lanzarote a year and use it for Kona. So
right, okay.
Yeah, I've got long course weekend booked in again. They've invited me back, so that'd be nice to go there.
Defending champ.
Defending champ, yeah, a big target on my back this time. Yes, yes, it's gonna be a bit more. It'll be a bit different. And then, Finland for the 70.3 Worlds. They're the only ones I've got booked in at the moment. But I'm sure I'll fill up around that with other events. So
great. Well, listen, I wish you all the best of luck. I hope our paths cross at an event next year. And if any of the listeners see you in your black and orange talk kit, they can give you a cheer on and wish you the best coming in the other direction.
It does stand out, doesn't it? Yeah, very much so.
All right, brilliant, Donald. Listen, thank you very much for your time, mate.